Hello, my name is Ryan, and thank you for checking out my Ian Fleming book series. So, in this series, I am having a first impressions review slash discussion of the Ian Fleming novels, and I am comparing them to the book counterpart. So, in today's video, we will be discussing For Your Eyes Only, and as usual, we'll have a quick look at the cover. So this one is very different to all of the stories that we've done so far, or all the books we've done so far, because this is it's a short story compilation. So in this there are 5 short stories. So you got From a View to a Kill, For Your Eyes Only, Quantum of Solace, Risico, and The Hildebrand Rarity. So I'm going to go over each of those. Hopefully I'll remember the scores I gave them. I might have to put these in the comment because there are 6 scores for this one. So basically I've given a score for each of the 5 short stories and then the book itself overall. Compared to my other ratings, this one has a slightly different rating because the short stories are rated on the same scale as I would the books, but the book itself, it's basically docked a point because I feel like it's a lot more difficult to write a 300-page novel than there is to do, like a 30-page short story, which you can agree or disagree with that one. But I wrote them individually and then ranked them individually and then ranked the book as a whole. So to start off with, I'm gonna. So basically, 2 of the short stories in this book, For Your Eyes Only and Risico, are the combined plot for the movie For Your Eyes Only. So I'll go through them all briefly and then kind of, I guess, go into a bit more detail on the stuff that I remember, because it turns out I actually forgot a lot about this book. Um, I think I might also have the same problem for the next 2 books as well, just because life became a lot more hectic at this point. Became ill quite a bit. My partner was ill, organizing our wedding, going to someone else's wedding. Just a load of stuff happened. So I feel like I might have just got lost in the sauce a little bit there. But so just very briefly, From a View to a Kill, Bond goes back to Paris, and he has to investigate a courier who had been killed on a motorway on his way from, I think it's one base to another base. He goes there, checks in with the guy in command, has like a look around to see if there's anything suspicious. If I remember correctly, the guy did not like that. He ends up like find out there's some sort of gypsy camp, I believe it is, nearby, like on the motorway. He goes, like does his investigation on the road. Eventually finds out that there is a like a Russian cell, I guess, hidden nearby. They are like in this sort of underground area, like in a grassy area. You can lift up, the roof in this case or the floor, and they got some sort of underground bunker there. So Bond figures that out. He figures out how to get their attention to unlock the bunker and stuff. I can't remember if it was like whistling. I think it was. I think you whistle. There was like some sort of whistle pattern that you do to get their attention. Bond killed the guy who came out, like their leader, whistled to get the other one's attention, and I think he might have killed them. And then as he's going inside the bunker, the story ended. So it's like I say, it's a short story. It's a very like I feel stereotypical sort of Bond story, but I really enjoyed it for what it was. But the abrupt ending kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So if I remember correctly, this one was a 8.5. So it's still a good score. It just could have been higher if it weren't for that. For Your Eyes Only, again, so this has a part of the plot For Your Eyes Only. It starts off with I believe it's a British couple in Jamaica, and a guy knocks on their door because his boss wants to buy their house. They refuse it. So they get killed. Um, uh, then Bond is with M. He has a mission because it turns out this couple were a good friend of M's. And then he travels to wherever he travels and bumps into a girl there. And if I remember correctly, he says she either has a Scottish or a Welsh accent, and he can't quite place it, and he never mentions it again. But you get extra points for mentioning Wales or the Welsh. I'm always up for that. Oh, it's the Havelocks, just coincidentally. So it's the Havelocks that get killed. And it turns out this girl is the daughter of the Havelocks, and she wants to get her revenge. And then when they find the compound or the mansion, wherever it is, people are having a party outside, and the main man is bouncing on a diving board, and the girl shoots him in the back of a crossbow, and he falls into the water and dies, which is in the movie. You see that part. In the movie, then they the other guy gets away, whereas I think in the book Bond shoots the rest of them, if I remember correctly. And then they have the car chase and everything in the movie version, but then in the book, I believe that's just where it ends, more or less. She got her revenge because she killed the guy who killed her parents, and then I think she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just gonna go and live my life now." But that's the crux of it. I don't remember if there's anything else, but that's like more or less the gist of the story. Um, and that one I gave a 9, if I remember correctly, just because this one is very much just a Bond story. You have like the sort of um, the inciting incident. You have the briefing with M. You have Bond. Oh yeah, there's also like a little bit where he's organizing, getting. Oh, he's in Canada, I think. Or he's at like in America to the Canada border or something. Because he goes to a motel. I think he buys a gun and he buys some hunting gear or something. He talks to some guy who knows the area, and then he like makes his way up there. So you have Bond like organizing it. You have the actual little mission itself, and then you have the conclusion, which I'm pretty sure the conclusion is just a discussion with that girl, and her just saying, oh, like she's just gonna go live somewhere else or go do something else to try to overcome her parents being murdered, if I remember correctly, anyway. And then you have Quantum of Solace. This one is absolutely nothing like the movie. Thankfully, I did not like the Quantum of Solace movie, but then again, you wouldn't have the super high-paced cuts consistently, just screwing up my eyeballs in a book. But in the actual book version, it's Bond is at, I think, a dinner party, and he's having a discussion with like the governor of some area, Jamaica maybe, but he's at and he's talking to this guy, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna tell you a story. Hopefully, you find this interesting." But I'm not an interesting guy like you, sort of thing, if I remember right. And he tells this story about this man who's in the army, I think, maybe the navy, some sort of armed forces. He was on a plane one day, fell in love with the hostess, and married her, and did everything he could for this woman. He idolized her. Then it turned out she was cheating on him, and she absolutely crushed him. But then he got his revenge by when he basically I think he went away on tour somewhere, came back and like, right, we are not breaking up publicly, we are splitting up privately. You get half the house, I get half the house. I will never speak to you again. I will never interact with you again, basically. And that's what it will be for the next 3 years until I can leave Jamaica. I think it's Jamaica. Ian Fleming loves Jamaica, so I'm just gonna pretend this happens in Jamaica. I'm like 90% certain it is. And then when it ends, she's all very sad, very scared because she has no money. So she asks if he can help her. So he gives her the radio and the car. He's like, fine, you can have these, sell these, get some money, and then just do whatever you want. Then he leaves. She goes to the radio shop. Turns out he didn't buy the radio, he rented it. So she had to pay the guy, I think £20 to take the radio back and to just get rid of the debt, which obviously crushes her because that's the exact opposite of what she needed. And then when she goes to the car dealership, she has a horrible feeling in the like the pit of her stomach, and it turns out, yes, the car was also rented, and this guy fucked her over twice. Um, and like he just got his revenge for all of the shit that she did to him. But then it turns out that woman, I believe, was at the dinner party, and she is now married to like a Canadian millionaire or something. So it worked out well for her to some extent in the end. But it's a very interesting story. I really liked it. It's very different from what you'd usually get from Bond, which is why I think I liked the change of pace. And I did give it a 9 out of 10. I thought it was a really interesting story. Next, we have Risiko. Now, Risiko is the other half of the For Your Eyes Only movie, which is the plot line where Bond is like he goes. I think it's Rome in the book. I think I seen Rome when I was flicking through it recently. Um, Basically, he goes there because someone is like stated to be a smuggler of heroin or some very dangerous stuff, and then like that guy's like, oh, actually, my friend, that's not the case. This guy here is the bad guy, and I will prove it to you. And then it's that same situation where they find out that the guy who gave Bond the tip was actually the bad guy, and then they do I think it's like a castle on a hill, like they do the assault on there. And then in this case, I can't remember what they're after, but I think it's a lector or some sort of piece of technology. And like a helicopter lands near the end with a Smersh operative, and Bond destroys the object or whatever it was. And then the Smersh guy just like smiles. And I think his bodyguard goes to shoot him. And they're like, oh, don't do that. If you shoot him, we're going to have bigger problems. Like, you win this round, sort of thing. And then he just leaves. Or something to that effect. I can't remember 100%. Like I say, a load of life got in the way with this book. Also, in my notes, Risiko had an 8 with an asterisk because it was very segmented, my reading for it. I kept getting interrupted. So I wasn't able to read it in like 1 or 2 sit-ins. It was like, say, 5 or 6 sit-ins for the readings. So that's also probably why I've forgotten it a little bit. And then lastly, we have the Hildebrand rarity, which I believe I've also given a 8 to. I'll just start off with. And this is a story where Bond and I believe another agent of some variety, or just another guy, are hired by a millionaire to go looking for a rare fish in some Caribbean area, possibly Jamaica again. And Bond just goes there. This guy's like a massive asshole. It starts off with Bond like hunting a stingray, and I believe he kills the stingray, and he finds out that there's like this whip that people used to make out of the stingray's tail, and it's now illegal. You can't have this thing anymore. And then on the boat, you find out that this guy who hired Bond and the other guy has one of these stingray tails. You hear him using it on his wife when she, like in the evenings, if she talks against him or undermines him in any way throughout the day. And the story ends with him sleeping on a like a hammock, and he is like the fish that they find. I think it's all spiny, and he is found by Bond with that fish like lodged into his mouth. So he like died suffocated because of the spines going into his throat and stuff, and he just was killed. So Bond threw him overboard so no one would know that he was murdered, and they would think that just he fell off the hammock and rolled off the boat in the night and drowned to death. And you never find out who killed him officially. Like, it was because he pissed off a few people, so technically it could have been anyone, but it was obviously the wife that he was abusing repeatedly by whipping her and everything. It had to have been the wife. Like, Bond had his motive because of how much he hated the guy, because he was like very condescending, like a massive ass. Oh yeah, because the guy was American and he would like mock Bond because he was British. And the other guy, I think he was a Jamaican guy, or something like a Caribbean guy, and he would make fun of him for his like similar things, because he was like the loud, abrasive American guy, basically. Um, but yeah, so he gets killed, and then the story ends like a who done it sort of deal. Again, I enjoyed it. I gave it an 8 out of 10, and overall, like we got a 9.5, a 9, a 9, an 8, and an 8. So you think the overall score would be a 9 out of 10, but like I say, due to the nature of the short stories, I dropped the score down to an 8, because I feel like a long sustained story is more impressive than short bursts. But still, very good, worth the read. There are a lot more, sort of one sit-in stories for the most part. Like if you would just want to sit down and have a read for an hour, hour and a half, you could easily read a couple of these short stories. And they are enjoyable, and they're quite different overall. And it's a big part of what I enjoy about the Bond stories is going to different parts of the world. Even though Ian Fleming goes to France and Jamaica quite a lot, but still, it's always good. But yeah, let me know what you think of For Your Eyes Only. Let me know how you'd rank it against the other Bond books, and what you would rank it out of 10. And I just feel like saying that I forgot something about Goldfinger when I reviewed that. So something to do with Bond having his like car chase, but it's fine. I talked about the main stuff anyway. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in, is it Thunderball we're doing next? So look here, we're doing Thunderball. It is Thunderball. Yeah, take care.